Private aviation has a dark secret no one talks about. It's not safety, it's not technology, it's money. A product sold as the future of flying private and trusted by the world's wealthiest clients quickly became the perfect exploit for fraudsters to steal millions, destroying lives and harming the industry. So how did a luxury revolution turn into aviation's biggest scam? It's the ultimate symbol of success and freedom. A sleek private jet waiting on the tarmac, ready to take you anywhere in the world on your schedule. For decades, this privilege was reserved for the ultra-wealthy who could afford to own an aircraft outright. But then, a revolutionary product emerged, promising to democratize the private skies. It was called the jet card. The pitch was simple and seductive. Prepay for flight hours and in return, get guaranteed access to a jet at a fixed rate anytime you wanted. It was meant to be the end of uncertainty. But what if that promise of security was an illusion? What if the very product designed to offer peace of mind was actually a perfect blueprint for fraud? This is the story of how the jet card, a symbol of convenience and exclusivity, morphed into one of the most devastating financial traps in modern aviation, leaving a trail of bankrupt companies, betrayed clients, and over $100 million in vanished funds. How did the dream of private flight become a waking nightmare for so many? To understand how this scam works, you first have to understand the problem it claimed to solve. Before the jet card, flying private was a choice between two difficult options. You could buy your own jet, which meant a massive upfront cost and the headache of managing pilots, maintenance, and insurance. Or you could charter a plane for each trip. This was more flexible, but prices were unpredictable, and there was no guarantee a jet would be available when you needed it, especially during holidays. There was a huge gap in the market for people who flew often, but not enough to justify owning a plane. Then, in the late 90s, a brilliant idea emerged: the jet card. It was simple. You bought a card loaded with 25, 50, or 100 hours of flight time. Suddenly, the biggest problems of private aviation disappeared. You had a locked-in hourly rate, shielding you from wild price swings. You had guaranteed access to a jet, often with just 24 hours notice. Booking a flight became as easy as sending an email. It was the perfect compromise. The promise was so powerful that affluent travelers and corporations handed over hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars without a second thought. They believed they were buying a secure and predictable way to travel, but they were mistaken. What they didn't know was that they weren't just buying flight hours. For many, they were buying a ticket to financial ruin. There's a dirty secret hidden in the balance sheets of many jet card companies. It's a financial concept known as the float. When you deposit $250,000, that money isn't put into a safe account with your name on it. Instead, it's dumped into the company's general operating account and is spent immediately. Your money, intended for a flight 6 months from now, is used to pay for someone else's flight today to cover fuel costs, aircraft leases, and lavish marketing parties. This creates a business model that looks shockingly similar to a Ponzi scheme. The company is completely dependent on a constant stream of cash from new members to fulfill its promises to existing ones. As long as new money keeps pouring in, the illusion can be maintained. But if sales slow down, or if a crisis hits, the house of cards collapses. This is the central flaw that fraudsters have exploited time and again. One of the most common tactics is what industry insiders call membership promise drift. A company will lure customers in with an unbeatable offer, only to strip away the benefits once the cash is in hand. The master of this was a company called JetSmarter. In the mid-2000s, it exploded onto the scene, billing itself as the Uber for private jets. Backed by celebrities, it offered an all-you-can-fly membership for a flat annual fee, but the model was unsustainable. By 2018, JetSmarter was secretly gutting the program, adding fees to the supposedly free flights and eliminating perks. The company was hit with a wave of lawsuits alleging a classic bait and switch, and eventually settled a class action arbitration case, compensating members with pennies on the dollar or flight credits for a service they no longer trusted. But this is where the story takes an even darker turn. Some founders don't just bend the rules, they treat the company as their personal piggy bank. In 2015, a luxury operator named ZetaJet launched with a fleet of ultra-long-range bombardier jets catering to an elite global clientele. But behind the glamour, its managing director, Jeffrey Cassidy, was allegedly looting the company from within. According to lawsuits, he misappropriated up to $30 million of company money to buy a super yacht, high-end sports cars, and real estate. When ZetaJet collapsed into bankruptcy in 2017, it left a trail of over 250 creditors and millions in lost customer deposits. Cassidy was eventually charged in Singapore with 34 criminal counts, including embezzlement and fraud. These playbooks show how companies can manipulate trust and money. But what happens when a company isn't overtly fraudulent but simply built on a flawed, unsustainable model? Even when there is no criminal intent, the Jet Card model can be a ticking time bomb. The collapse of JetSuite is a chilling example. This was a respected operator with high-profile backers and a loyal following for its SweetKey Jet Card program. It was the very picture of legitimacy, but its business was built on the same dangerous float. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, travel demand vanished overnight. The flow of new deposits stopped, and JetSuite's fatal flaw was exposed. The company filed for bankruptcy, revealing it owed over $50 million to its SweetKey members. The result was devastating. After the bankruptcy proceedings, customers received less than half a penny on the dollar for their deposits. One client who was owed $349,000 received a check for a pathetic $1,740. JetSuite proved that even without a criminal founder, the model itself could be the biggest risk, turning a trusted company into a financial black hole for its customers. This led to a critical question: if your money isn't safe, is your life? For some operators, the answer was a terrifying no. The case of Platinum Jet Management serves as a stark reminder of where this culture of deception can lead. The company's founders, Michael and Paul Brassington, didn't just swindle their clients financially, they put their lives in danger. They lied to customers, claiming they were a fully licensed and legal charter operator when they were not. They used unqualified pilots and forged flight logs to hide their illegal operations. But their most dangerous scheme was a cost-cutting measure. To avoid paying for expensive fuel at certain airports, they would routinely overload their jets with cheap fuel elsewhere. This made the aircraft dangerously nose-heavy and violated all safety regulations. The pilots were then instructed to falsify the weight and balance records to cover it up. This practice led directly to a catastrophic crash in 2005. A Platinum Jet charter taking off from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey was too heavy to get airborne. It overshot the runway, crashed through a fence, and slammed into a highway, injuring passengers and people on the ground. The subsequent investigation exposed the company's systemic fraud. The Brassington brothers were convicted and sentenced to federal prison for their crimes. The Platinum Jet case was a chilling warning. When a company is willing to scam you out of your money, it is often willing to gamble with your safety too. The playbook of deception is shockingly consistent. The most brazen example is AeroVanti. In 2021, its charismatic founder, Patrick Britton-Haar, launched a Top Gun lifetime membership for $150,000. He promised members their money would be held in a secure escrow account and used to buy a specific aircraft, making them part owners. It was supposed to be the safest jet card ever created. It was all a lie. The US Department of Justice alleges Britton-Haar was a professional scammer. The nearly $15 million collected from about 100 members was allegedly never used to buy planes. Instead, he is accused of misappropriating the funds almost immediately, siphoning the money off to fund his lavish lifestyle, including payments on a yacht and a waterfront mansion. The entire operation was a facade. The promised fleet didn't exist. The company only had a few leased aircraft, many of which were grounded or repossessed. The scheme finally imploded, and in 2025, the DOJ unsealed a federal indictment charging Britton-Haar with 6 counts of wire fraud. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison for each count. AeroVanti became the poster child for the modern jet card scam, a perfect storm of seductive marketing, false promises, and brazen theft. After so many collapses, industry watchdogs began sounding the alarm. The FAA published a list of red flags for illegal charters, such as a company that asks you to sign a phony lease or quotes a price without the required 7.5% federal excise tax. Meanwhile, the Air Charter Association began warning about fake websites that steal photos from real companies and ask for wire transfers for flight flights that don't exist. These warnings highlight a difficult truth. In this high-stakes world, the responsibility to avoid a scam falls almost entirely on the customer. The most critical safeguard is to insist that your funds be held in a third-party escrow account, only to be released after a flight is completed. If a provider refuses, it's the biggest red flag of all. When a jet card company collapses, it's not just a business story, it's a story of personal devastation. For the victims, the nightmare is just beginning. The raw monetary losses are staggering. When JetSuite went under, approximately $50 million in client deposits essentially evaporated. In bankruptcy, jet card holders are treated as unsecured creditors, meaning they are at the very back of the line for repayment. The result was that JetSuite members collectively received only a few $100,000 back, a loss of over 99% of their money. The same is true for AeroVanti's Top Gun members, who are out a collective $15 million with little hope of recovery unless the government can seize and auction off the yachts and luxuries their money was spent on. But the financial numbers only tell half the story. The emotional toll is immense. Private aviation is a business built on trust. You trust a company with your life when you board their plane, and you trust them with huge sums of your money. When that trust is betrayed, customers report feeling not just financially hurt, but personally violated and embarrassed. The senior couple in the JetSmarter case wrote a heartfelt email directly to the CEO, appealing to his conscience after feeling scammed. These were people sold a dream of hassle-free private travel in their retirement, only to have it turn into a stressful legal battle. This is the hidden cost of these scams: the years spent in costly legal proceedings, the stress of fighting for a refund that may never come, and the sense of injustice. The ripple effects are real and damaging. Critical business trips are missed when a flight is cancelled at the last minute. Family vacations are ruined. Some AeroVanti members recounted how they had to scramble to find last-minute commercial flights or drive for hours to make important meetings after their promised jet never materialized. And this brings up a crucial, unanswered question: will the victims ever get real justice? For cases like AeroVanti and ZetaJet, criminal trials are pending, and a conviction could bring prison time for the founders. But even then, recovering the actual money is a long shot. This has led to an ongoing debate within the industry. After the JetSuite collapse, should regulators like the Department of Transportation step in and require all prepaid charter funds to be held in a protected escrow account? As of today, that has not happened, leaving a massive regulatory blind spot that continues to put consumers at risk. The individual cases may fade from the headlines, but the fight for industry-wide reform continues, leaving a crucial question unanswered. Will the industry police itself, or is the next great private aviation scam already taking flight? What do you think is the biggest red flag when it comes to these programs? Let us know in the comments and click here to watch our next video.